Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Martinez. I am also a master's student alongside Samuel Kim, who first I want to say did an amazing job presenting. And I think everyone else has done a tremendous job in just the amount of education, the passion that they've shown, and really just showing how amazing it is that we can gather together as a community to talk about these issues at hand and how we can handle these situations. Now, me personally, I will be talking about electronic cigarettes and going into a little bit more detail on that matter, as it's a growing concern for our public. Again, I am Jason Martinez. My mentor, Dr. Friedman, with the Department of Health and Life Sciences at Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. Another thing, I just want to thank everybody for taking their time to give me your time in talking a little bit about this. So first off, let's start off with some learning objectives. What are electronic nicotine delivery systems? Why are they popular? What is inside these e-cigarettes or these ends? And are they safe? Also, it's more than just adults smoking e-cigarettes. We're going to look into that as well and how they focus into our youth. And then I will also be covering a little bit about the work our lab at Charles Drew has done highlighting the harmful effects of e-cigarettes. And lastly, why we need to worry about e-cigarettes and what we can do together to tackle this situation.
Can you speak a little louder? Speak a little louder, Jason, please. Got a couple of requests.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Apologies. Is this a little bit better? So to start off with, the devices whose function is to vaporize and deliver to the lungs of the user a chemical mixture typically composed of nicotine, propylene glycol, and other chemicals as defined by the World Health Organization. Now to talk a little bit about the evolution of e-cigarettes, Herbert A. Gilbert is generally credited with the creation of the first device that closely resembled the modern e-cigarette. He reports receiving a patent in 1965. However, this was filed in 1963 and created prototypes, but ultimately failed to commercialize it. Now, in 2003, Han Leek, who worked for Golden Dragon Holdings, developed the e-cigarette device and changed the company's name to Ruyan, which means like smoke. Now, for the evolution of e-cigarettes, we are talking about 5 generations. However, Sam did bring up a newer generation, which is the heat not burn e-cigarette. And so I'll be talking about the current 5 generations. The first generation, which is the Cigalites, contained a cartridge, atomizer, and battery. They worked as follows. A heating element heats the juice, acting as an atomizer. Now, this juice is a liquid stored in the cartridge or tank to make the vapor. Now, this vapor is then inhaled by the user and exhaled as needed. The second generation ends were now termed vape pens. These were different in that the cartridge now became a refillable tank. The third generation ends were mechanical mods. These new devices included variable power options and had the option to fill the mod tanks with different types of e-juices. So you can see those images in the bottom right-hand corner where you can start to replace it. And basically, if you change your mind on a flavor, you could switch the flavor. According to CDC data, the e-cigarette usage actually decreased slightly into 2016, and so a 4th generation of ends flooded the market. These were pod mods, or more commonly known as Juul. These new systems are lightweight, simple, convenient, portable, easy to use, rechargeable, and easily hidden. There's now actually a 5th generation of ends, and these are disposable e-cigarettes that are specifically marketed toward youth, the most popular being puff bars. Again, the newest model is the one that's currently in the works, and that is the heat not burn. So this gives you a little bit of a better idea of how these are situated and how these are developed. In the next slide, I will be kind of covering a little bit of a clearer image and how it actually works. But as you can see, we have a mouthpiece, a heating element, which is the atomizer, which heats the juice itself to make the vapor, a cartridge, a tank that holds the liquid or the juice, a microprocessor, and then many devices that have a switch to activate the heating element, so you can turn it on and turn it off, and when you want to use it, you can use it, and when you don't need it, you can store it in your pocket or anywhere else. There's also a battery, and often some devices have a light emitting diode on the end to stimulate the glow of a burning cigarette. Now, this here is how the ends works. So in the first image, we have e-cigarettes, which contain a battery-powered atomizer. The second image, the atomizer heats up a mixture of nicotine and flavored juices inside a small chamber. The mixture turns into a vapor, and thus the vapor is inhaled by the user and exhaled as needed. Now, revolving around e-cigarettes, there's a large amount of attraction. This is due to numerous reasons. First off, the flavoring. The companies and the developers have used a very interesting tool in their hands to create nicotine to taste good. With the classical version of e-cigarettes, nicotine or smoking in general was not always popular because usually in the first experience, it's a very harsh taste to what had been told. Now these e-cigarettes are actually containing flavoring which can mimic, as we can see, whipped cream or vanilla wafer cookies or even sour heads. There's also been cinnamon bun, and the flavors go on and on. Not only this, it's that there's very positive imaging that revolves around e-cigarettes. As you can see, it always appears to look cool. It is creative, it's hip, it's newer, and it has just a very positive image to it, even to the point where they put down the aspect of cigarettes and making it look harmful and bad, and they make e-cigarettes look more beneficial and better. Alongside this, it's a very smooth design. Sometimes they can appear as USB devices. There's no current federal e-cigarette tax. It is also conveniently rechargeable and can be also discreetly hidden. Now, popularity in cigarettes, in e-cigarettes, why is that? Again, it's a cigarette substitute. In the beginning, it came to be known as a substitution for classical cigarettes and eventually to help with cessation of smoking. Alongside this, there's health concerns with smoking, which makes people more inclined to try something else to get away from the harmful product that they're consuming if they can get the same feeling from e-cigarettes and the same nicotine. Another thing is that there's convenience to the e-cigarettes, the affordability, the supportive subculture, online information. There's a bit of viral movement. Again, it makes them look cool. That's what many people believe. It's a new and it's a hip thing to do, and it's a very just popular aspect. And lastly, people do it as a hobby. I have had friends who have a collection of e-cigarettes, and they are more obsessed with the actual building of it, the playing with it, the changing it, and just making a hobby out of it and having fun with it. So I want to highlight some things about the aspect of e-cigarettes. First off, a lot of times when people use e-cigarettes for a tool of cessation smoking, it actually often is not as productive or successful as the cigarette companies would want you to believe. Most often times, they don't end up quitting smoking, or again, they can also actually turn to both products. So instead of just smoking cigarettes, now they're also smoking e-cigarettes at the same time because e-cigarettes are convenient. People often don't mind the smoke because it smells of fruits and the colorful flavorings. And the cigarettes, on the other hand, tend to smell bad or have that harsher smell to it. So now they can use both to their own discretion and more often commonly. So a little bit about facts of vaping. The image on the right actually shows revolving around younger generations and younger people. So 10 million youth in the United States used or were open to using e-cigarettes in 2018. There, at that time, has been 60 deaths associated with vaping. Nicotine is it's one of the largest components or the most important component in the e-cigarettes for the users, alongside the flavoring. There's been over 2,700 lung injuries at that time in the U.S. associated with vaping. 8th graders who vape are 10 times more likely to eventually smoke cigarettes than non-vaping peers. There was an 135% increase in high school students using e-cigarettes reported between the years of 2017 and 2019. And then 60% of young people think e-cigarettes are mostly flavor, and they don't even realize that there's nicotine. So again, e-cigarettes contain nicotine. Now, nicotine is associated with numerous health issues. Long-term effects of e-cigarette users, or e-cigarettes, on liver disease, diabetes, heart disease, or stroke are currently unknown. Short-term effects include increased coughing, wheezing, and other short-term effects associated with asthma flares. Many regulatory agencies assume that ends are safe in spite of them containing nicotine. Now, why is nicotine important? Nicotine binds to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors in the brain and other tissues. So in the image in the bottom, you can see what is called a ligand. We can think of it as a nicotine and a baseball. And you can think of the receptor as a baseball mitt. And once that nicotine goes into that receptor, it plays a role in causing a pleasure feeling. That's why because it mimics dopamine. And this dependency of e-cigarettes occurs because of increased dopamine, or known as the pleasure molecule. Now, nicotine by itself plays a role in heart disease and cancer. Addictive personalities, or the addiction of the e-cigarettes, is due to desensitization. Basically, it's the more we have, the more we need to feel that same effect. Now, I want to highlight some ingredients within the e-cigarette. First, it's the acetaldehyde. This occurs basically leading to a feeling of a hangover. The nitrosamines is a carcinogen known to cause tumors in the large intestines of rat when exposed to this ingredient. And a carcinogen is any substance that has the potential to cause cancer in living tissues. Formaldehyde is also a carcinogen. It's used to make clothes wrinkle resistant. It's used to make parts of transmission systems in automobiles, and it's used in the making of bombs. So these 3 ingredients are very common ingredients within e-cigarettes. So now, are e-cigarettes safe? You can see a whole laundry list of common ingredients in e-cigarettes. Again, nicotine, propylene glycol, glycerin, acetaldehyde. A lot of harmful ingredients on their own are concocted within the product e-cigarette. Now you can see a lot of e-cigarette companies advertising the simplicity of e-cigarettes when comparing to a normal or traditional cigarette. And they don't talk about their ingredients within it. They talk about the sleek design. They talk about how simple it is, and they term it e-liquid. This e-liquid is a combination of these harmful ingredients that they don't want to share, or that they often hide because it's not as attractive as the product itself. Now, to highlight some of the cardiovascular effects, conventional cigarettes are linked to heart failure and cardiovascular disease. Now, e-cigarettes increase the breakdown of fat, causing an increase in free fatty acids in our bloodstream. Now, this is a very bad thing. You kind of think of it and you think, oh, I'll be losing fat, I'll be breaking down fat. But the consequence of this is actually increasing inflammation in our bodies. It's increasing a downstream effects that lead to heart disease, that lead to fatty liver disease, and just so many more diseases from this increase in free fatty acids. The secretions of fat affect the health of the metabolism. The increase in free fatty acids stimulate inflammation and also adipose tissue or the fat, and it causes a downstream effects, which can lead to ultimately cardiac failure or cardiac stress, like a heart attack. Now, the ENDS is becoming an epidemic. Recently, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, introduced the term EVALI to describe e-cigarette or vaping-associated lung injuries and illnesses. As of early October, nearly 1,300 cases have been reported to the CDC, with at least 26 deaths. Now, 95% of patients with EVALI have reported respiratory symptoms, such as shortness of breath, cough, chest pain, and 77% have reported GI issues, such as nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. So as of February 18, 2020, 2,807 cases of hospitalized EVALI or deaths were reported. As of February 18, 2020, 68 deaths have been confirmed. So again, the electronic cigarettes and these ENDS products are spreading rapidly, and there's a large issue revolving around them. They may be advertised as better alternatives, as more popular alternatives, but there's a large issue revolving around it, and it's something that we should be really worried about. Next, I want to focus on the impact in our youth. So the growth in e-cigarette use hasn't just increased within adults. In fact, it's increased in high school students and middle school students. So in our youth, which is something that is very scary and something that we should be very worried about. As you can see, also, e-cigarettes have replaced, for the most part, in a fairly significant amount, e-cigarettes have replaced and surpassed the conventional cigarette use. And the main reason for this is the appeal of flavors. Many people don't think that they would try e-cigarettes or become addicted to e-cigarettes if it was not for the flavor. So the flavor, again, is something that we should be focusing on because it's taking advantage of the youth, especially because many kids won't want to smoke a cigarette more than they'll want to smoke an e-cigarette because of that flavoring. Now, I want to highlight some of the research that we are doing at Charles Drew to kind of show why we should be scared of what is in these e-cigarette products and why there is a need for intervention. Now, Western diet, Western diet is a high-fat diet in a sense, and the end leads to hepatic steatosis, or simply a dramatic increase of fat accumulation in mice when given e-cigarettes or the ENDS. And fatty livers may lead to liver failure if not treated in time. E-cigarettes plus high-fat diet increase size of tumors in breast. And so you can see the significant change with the tumor starting and increasing when compared to no nicotine. E-cigarettes lead to plaque in mouse heart. So when we are given mice and they are treated with electronic cigarettes, you can see a significant increase in the plaque in a mouse heart. And you can see this in the numbers as well for the lesion area or the change in the amount of plaque. And lastly, I want to talk about besides the epidemic involving our youth, why is this concerning? First, it pushes new users to develop nicotine addictions. Next, it pushes steady users to exacerbate nicotine addiction. In the youth, nicotine exposure could harm brain development. Often, many e-cig users use combustible cigarettes, so they're using both at the same time, mainly because e-cigarettes are more convenient and they're less frowned upon in the public. E-cigarettes are not regulated by the FDA. All kinds of toxins and carcinogens could be in these products. And here at CDU, researchers have proven that the use of e-cigarettes is linked to cardiovascular, pulmonary, hepatic, metabolic risks, and even breast cancer. So what does this all mean? Well, as a U.S. Surgeon General, we must protect our nation's young people from a lifetime of nicotine addiction and associated problems by immediately addressing e-cigarettes as an urgent public health problem. Now is the time to take action. It's the perfect time to take action, more soon better than later. The reason being is because vaping is a drug. It contains nicotine, which has addictive personalities, and not only that, it's expensive and it's dangerous. I know when it's targeting the youth, it becomes a more serious issue, because in the beginning, e-cigarettes were proposed as a possible treatment or an addition to cessation of smoking. Now it has become a profit. It has become almost as a weapon against our youth, because the youth are being targeted and they are smoking it and they're enjoying it. The addition of flavors worsens things, and it makes it addictive with nicotine. So we need to take a stand, we need to take action, and we need to do our best to protect our youth and to really get into the forefront and take care of this issue. I do know that there were some comments in the Q&A, and I will answer that real quick. I want to first acknowledge all of these people, because without them, my research and this education and this information would not be possible. This includes Dr. Espinoza-Dura, Dr. Hassan, Dr. Shao, Dr. Sinha-Kim, Dr. Kim, sorry, soon to be Dr. Kim, Samuel Kim, one of my peers, and Dr. Friedman, as well as UCLA and Charles for providing their facilities and their help throughout this process. So I'm going to look at the Q&As. Let's see. Am I allowed to, Norma, am I allowed to go ahead and go through the questions and answer them?
Yes, and Dr. Friedman's on the phone too, so he can pinch it, especially like on this one on England, and the one regarding COVID restrictions and smoking use. The panel can cover that one, I think.
Okay.
Well, you want to go to the heat not burn devices? Why did the FDA approve it?
The heat not burn devices.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see. I hope this isn't showing up in my presentation. Okay, so can you explain these heat not burn devices and why did the FDA approve the IQOS? So I don't have the full amount of information, but I'll give you what I know.
Okay.
The heat not burn device, it was at a certain threshold up to when it's heating and when it's burning. At the point it's burning, the research shows that it creates the process of carcinogens, just like in conventional cigarettes. When you burn the tobacco leaves, the process of converting that into the smoke is what led to the carcinogen. Now, the idea behind the heat not burn devices is that they are not going above this threshold. So instead, it's a mixture of the actual tobacco leaves and a liquid. I think I could be, I believe it's propylene glycol that they mix the tobacco leaves with. And the warming of this creates just enough of nicotine to be consumed, but it's not the burning of the process that creates the carcinogens.
Sam, can you clarify if indeed they were FDA approved? I don't think they were.
Sam, I don't know. For the IQOS?
Yeah, that's not FDA approved, is it?
I don't think so. I don't think I said that.
Yeah,
I don't know if that was. Yeah, I don't think I talked about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're not. I think the FDA is discussing them, and they want to get more information on it. Sam is writing an editorial clearly against IQOS and the heat and burn products if we think they're, very dangerous and a new avenue to make tobacco to infiltrate the market.
I just Googled it,
Yeah.
and the FDA clears Philip Morris's heat not burn IQOS tobacco device for sale. So there we have some more federal decisions that are killing people. We don't know why. We got to speed through. We're a little bit behind, but let's take a couple more. Folks were asking about
Okay.
Spanish material. And if you will check with your local tobacco control office, perhaps they can help you with that. These presentations, they're not in Spanish, but I'll put that on the resource list if we find anything, and I'll get with our tobacco control office to see if there's anything we might be able to help.
I'll try to answer Jack Kearney's question about England,
Okay.
although I think I'm baffled by it as well. You know, I think Jason did a fantastic job of showing
Yes.
the detrimental effects of e-cigarettes. I think if you see his slide, I don't see how you can say that they're safe. I think there are some people and there's some belief that e-cigarettes are safer than conventional cigarettes for currently using users. For currently using smokers, that they might be helpful for smoke cessation. There was an article in New England Journal, a pretty large study in England, showing that they were only helpful for a very small percentage of people. And as Dr. Hurley said, most of those people stayed on their e-cigarettes. So you're basically substituting a cigarette addiction for an e-cigarette addiction. And most people are using both of them. So I don't think that they're really a product, and I think we should try to encourage people to stop e-cigarettes. And the youth, especially, is the problem. We should really try to ban them and ban its flavorings and make it illegal for them to purchase them if they're under 21, as Sam described.
Okay, and one more that relates directly to the lab work. What type of e-cigs were used in your animal studies?
So we used a patent creation for an electronic nicotine delivery system. In a sense, it was a chamber that delivered vapor for the mice to inhale. The actual e-cigarette that we used, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Friedman, it's the Juul pod, which we used.
No, we used the blue e-cigarettes. We're starting experiments coming up this week on Juul, but we've done it on blue currently.
Okay, apologies. We're looking into doing Juul, correct?
Correct. We're going to start next week.
Okay. Yeah. So we're using.
All right. Thank you so much, Jason.
I want to comment. Norval's commented the FDA did approve IQOSs to be legally sold in the United States. I think it's a mistake, but apparently that's what happened. Thank you, Norval and Shannon.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm very proud of my students who worked on these presentations. They did a great job.